The big news last night, though, was that despite Steph's 0 for 9 night from beyond the arc, which never happens, Andrew Wiggins had himself a game.
Wiggins. Peyton Curry Wiggins playing Draymond. Trying to give the Warriors a 3-2 series lead. Wiggins, the baby right hook again. He did it over Robert Williams.
How about this guy?
24 for Wiggins. And the Warrior lead is 14.
There's just a lot of great people here. Great people here that challenge you. They hold you accountable. And this is the sports system. Everyone on this team, the organization, they support you. They want to see you do good, and they're going to put you in position to do good.
That is Warriors Radio. That was Andrew Wiggins after the game. Let these numbers wash over you about Andrew Wiggins. That is the first time that Andrew Wiggins has led the Warriors in both points and rebounds. The first time. He chose Game 5 of the freaking NBA Finals for the first time in his Warriors career to lead the team in both points and rebounds. He had 26 and 13 last night. Okay, so he picked the best time ever to have his best game ever. And on a night where Andrew Wiggins is the best point scorer for the Warriors and the best guy on the boards, the fact that the Celtics still couldn't win is devastating for Boston. That's the first stat, which is amazing. The second stat, which is amazing on Andrew Wiggins' night, this is the first time ever in his career, ever, he had back-to-back double-doubles. He had 17 and 16 in Game 4, 26 and 13 in Game 5. So again, Andrew Wiggins chose Game 5 of the NBA Finals to have the greatest game of his career and has had back-to-back his best 2 overall games ever in his complete career, including the Timberwolves in the NBA Finals. The timing is impeccable. Okay, so let's talk about this deal. Because Andrew Wiggins was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers way back when, number 1 pick overall, when the Cavaliers didn't have LeBron. That was the 4 years in between his Cleveland stints in Miami. And the Cavs were terrible. They drafted Kyrie number 1. Remember, they got Anthony Bennett in there as well. They had Andrew Wiggins. And before he even arrived in Cleveland to play a basketball game, LeBron was like, we ain't doing Wiggins. So LeBron made the Cavaliers orchestrate a deal to where they got Kevin Love, and Love was part of those finals teams and is still a part of the Cavaliers, and Wiggins went to Minnesota. Now, Wiggins certainly had potential as the number 1 overall pick and a guy that played at Kansas and was a springy offensive jumper. And so he had the natural NBA gift, the athleticism. And also, in that first year in Minnesota, was named the NBA Rookie of the Year. He had a good start to his career. But playing on a bad team and being the guy on a really bad team, and then being paired with Karl Anthony Towns on a franchise that just could never get grounding, never has grounding, and has been awful for nearly 2 decades, he was miscast. He's not a savior. He's not a number 1 pick where you put the saddle on his back and go, we're going to ride you to relevance. It's not how he's ever been wired. He's more soft-spoken, more of a passenger, polite kid, but just not a guy that says, it's my time. It's my team. It's my town. He's not that guy. And so he was fine for Minnesota, but he was never great. And he looked like okay as a number one pick, but certainly not a franchise cornerstone. And yet, the Golden State Warriors saw something in him. They had D'Angelo Russell. Now, remember, after Kevin Durant wanted out. There was a sign and trade situation with Brooklyn. It brought back D'Angelo Russell. They felt Russell was not the guy, and so they flipped D'Angelo Russell for Andrew Wiggins and 2 draft picks. And so the D'Angelo Russell deal ends up being the next chapter of the Golden State Warriors. Because now they've got 2 picks and they've got Wiggins. And what the Warriors gave Andrew Wiggins was exactly what Wiggins needed. Wiggins needed the scrutiny and the pressure of being the, quote, number 1 pick, thus the savior, to be off of him. He wasn't that guy. He was not going to, his best efforts were never going to look like a LeBron, an Anthony Davis, a number 1 pick overall. It was never going to look that way. So he needed a fresh start, an organization where he could be under the radar a little bit. He also needed a very structured set of responsibilities. Wiggs, this is what you do well. This is what we need you to do. What you don't do well, we don't want you to do. And Wiggins was not committed defensively. Wiggins was not a guy that was like lockdown defender. But what the Warriors provided him was structure, accountability, and a narrow set of expectations. We need you to do this. We don't need you to be Steph. We don't need you to be Clay. We don't need you to be Draymond. We don't need you to be a franchise savior. We need you to do this. And we're going to give you time and space to do that. There's going to be no pressure on you. You won't have to do a million media avails. We know you don't love that type of stuff. We know that you're not about your brand. You're not going to wear crazy garbs coming into the arena. We know you're not going to do all of that. You don't want the attention like that. Soft-spoken, quiet, under-the-radar guy. We just need you to do this. And I thought it was so interesting last night when Steph was talking about the night and what has made Andrew Wiggins, and he says, you come here and you don't have to be everything. We're going to ask you to do a few things and do them well. And so even Curry was admitting, there is a limit to what we're asking him to do, and he's doing those things really well, but he's also growing into more of a dynamic two-way player. Remember back in the winter, we had the whole Andrew Wiggins is an all-star debate? What? He's an all-star starter? What? And it seemed crazy. But what had happened was over these 3 seasons with the Golden State Warriors, really 2.5, little by little, he had put together the pieces of still being a springy offensive scorer, but picking his spots because Clay and Steph were back, with being a lockdown defender because of his speed and athleticism. And what the Warriors did was they swapped out Kevin Durant, who was a great scorer, obviously, but aging, and swapped in a young, athletic, springy guy that they could then develop in their mold and say, we want you to do this. We know you can do this. We don't want you to do that. We don't expect you to do that. And he's comfortable. He's comfortable doing those things. And he's growing up. And so the last 2 games, you couldn't have picked 2 better games for Andrew Wiggins to have his 2 best games. But, now he's had back-to-back double-doubles, and last night leading the team in points and rebounds. It was a stroke of genius. The Warriors drive a lot of people in the NBA batty because Bob Myers, Lacob, and a lot of those guys, they like to tell you how smart they are. even behind the scenes, a lot of people are like, oh, God, the Warriors are going on and on again about how smart they are. But this was a stroke of genius. Wiggins was exactly what they needed to keep fulfilling the type of team they were, which was spacing and ball movement and commit on both ends of the floor, support the scoring of Steph and Clay, which is still the backbone. No ego, not about you. Wiggins has been great, and Jordan Poole's been great in that way. And 2 years of losing, of having no Clay, Steph injured, Dre injured, what that's done is it's allowed the space for those two young guys, Poole and Wiggins, to develop with no pressure. I mean, the last 2 years, they've been complete afterthoughts. 2 years ago, the Warriors were an absolute abject disaster, dumpster fire. Last year, they were just a playing game team. And so no pressure, no expectations, no scrutiny. No, can you believe how bad they are? It's just Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, you guys get to go out there and play every night and get better. And here's little things we need from you. And they've done it, and it's turned into a 3-2 series lead. Going back to Boston, Warriors have 2 shots to clinch their 4th NBA Finals championship in 8 years.